This is Drilling Insight, where we talk about ideas and issues that affect the drilling and groundwater industries. I'm Jeremy Verdusco, host and editor of The Driller. With me today is Mike Floyd. Thank you for being on the show, Mike.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy. I appreciate the opportunity.
So, Mike Floyd is president of the South Atlantic Jubilee, which of course returns this year on July 30th through August 1st. Now, Mike leads the environmental division at Charlotte, North Carolina-based McCall Brothers Incorporated, which offers water well, environmental foundations, and other types of drilling. And he's also active in the North Carolina Groundwater Association. We brought him on today to talk about this year's show and get some insights on the drilling industry. So, Mike, let's start with our usual opening question. Did you choose this industry or did it choose you?
Kind of a combination of the two. I'm a geologist by education and trade, and I had originally been involved in the oil drilling business. And about 1980, the bottom fell out of that, and so I relocated back from Texas back up to North Carolina, and a buddy of mine who was also an oil geologist had gone to work at McCall Brothers. He called me up one day and asked if I was maybe interested in giving that a whirl. I really didn't know much about groundwater drilling, but I said, it beats what I was doing at the time, so I decided let's give it a go. So that was 35 years ago, and I'm still here.
Okay. So, and even though, oil has ascended and gone down and ascended and gone down a couple of times since then, like you never went back to the patch?
No, that's a tough business, and even though the water well business can be a little tough, I actually enjoy dealing with groundwater geology better than I did oil geology, and honestly, I like this business. I feel like it's a business where we contribute more to the needs of people than we do in the oil business. The oil business is a little you're just one little player in a very big industry, whereas in the water well business, it's a lot more personal. So I enjoy it more.
Yeah, it's certainly an order of magnitude different than water or geotech or any of these other kinds of drilling sectors. So, of course, our audience is familiar with the Jubilee, but can you give us kind of a quick explainer? What is the Jubilee, and why should I attend it, and what can I expect this year?
Well, the Jubilee actually started as a small trade show that was put together by some of the North Carolina Groundwater Association, or at the time I think it was called the North Carolina Waterwell Association, a couple members. And they wanted it to be a little bit more widespread and involve more than just North Carolina. So they reached out to some guys in South Carolina and some guys in Virginia, and they thought, hey, we'll put together a little trade show at the time, which it was at Carolina Beach. And it actually turned out to pretty good for them, and they had a great time together. So they did it the next year, and then after a while, it started to gain some traction. They decided to move it to Myrtle Beach as a little larger venue than at Carolina Beach, and it now includes 10 states, all basically located in the southeast. So it's a big trade show, and it's also a very family-oriented event, which brings in people. Anytime you're going to the beach, kids want to go to the beach, so it brings families in, and it's become a great not only trade show but education event, and just a good fun time at the beach.
Well, and from what I gather, having attended it for years, a lot of people make it their family vacation for the year.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's some people that actually either have timeshares or condos or whatever, that they coordinate that with the week of the Jubilee so that they can attend the event and make it part of their family vacation.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, you're president of the Jubilee. You're former president and currently a director of the North Carolina Association. So, what do you say to give people a nudge to get involved like that? I mean, obviously you draw a lot of satisfaction from it, but if someone came to you and said, I'm thinking about it, but I don't like the politics, or I don't, I want to contribute. How do you kind of push them over that hump there?
Well, that's a good question, Jeremy. I think there's two facets to it. One, if you want to know what's really going on your state level and with local state regulations, what's going on in the legislature that they're potentially going to alter or change that has something to do with your livelihood, being the water well business, then being part of your state association gives you that opportunity to get that information. The second facet of it is, if you want to be at all involved in trying to impact those regulations or impact those rules that are coming down, you definitely either need to be a member and voice your opinion, or even seek to be on the board of directors so that you can have even a more direct impact on influencing those that are calling the shots on your business. So I think that the information aspect of it is very essential, and I think rather than being told what to do, have a voice in this so that you can explain to the people that are calling the shots, really what's important. Because more often than not, they don't completely understand the technicalities involved in the well construction and pump service business, and they're making decisions simply off of information that they've gathered from sources that don't have any real background in it.
Yeah. So there's really a benefit to coming off the sidelines if you really want to make an impact on this industry.
Well, there's no question that if you want to make an impact, you've got to get off the sidelines. If you just want to know what's going on, you really need to get off the sidelines, because if you don't, it's going to come to you, and it's already going to be enacted and already going to be happening, and you had no knowledge beforehand.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about this year's professional development. So of course, my co-host Brock Yorty presents again this year, but what other kinds of things can attendees look forward to?
We're having a number of different things. We try to offer a variety pack of stuff. So there'll be, in addition to what Brock is doing, there will be classes from a hydrogeologist named Richard Spruill. He's going to do a presentation about groundwater hydrology in eastern North Carolina and eastern South Carolina. We're going to have some live hands-on demonstrations from some of the drill crews. I think GeoProbe is going to do some live demonstrations outside. We generally offer some business classes, either QuickBooks or Excel or those kind of things, and we'll probably have a track that addresses some of those things. Plus, there'll be more information about rig safety and rig maintenance. There'll be classes about pump service. There'll be classes about variable frequency drives and how they're operated. And also there's usually a class or two that involves, business practices, hiring practices, how to function in this 21st century world that we're in right now, and especially in an environment where getting employees and keeping up with pricing are difficult to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's been one of my drives in my role as editor, is to offer some business tips, business education. I know they don't necessarily come there for the credits. They come for the credits, that are well related and whatnot, of course, but they can really benefit from having some of these other courses that they may not have, credit for.
Oh yeah, for sure. We have really two different types of attendees to these professional development classes. Some are there because their licensure in their respective state requires that they have a certain amount of professional development or continuing education or whatever they want to call it. in their respective states. And so they are there to learn and to get the credit hours. But probably an equal number are there simply because they want the additional education. They may not even have continuing education or professional development requirements in their state. They just want to, catch up on what's going on and what's new in the business.
Yeah. Or they may just think, well, I've seen that VFD class, let me check out something on QuickBooks, or let me check out something on retirement planning, or what have you.
Yeah, that's why we decided we would add a couple of guys, like I said, with Dr. Sproul, who's going to do the hydrogeology class. He happens to be a former professor of mine back in the day, and I know him well. I've done business with him, and he's a great speaker, and I think a lot of people look forward to that one. It'll be a well-attended class.
So shifting a second to the exhibitors, are there any changes that the exhibitors can expect this year? Anything different? Like what's in it for them?
Well, last year when we were just post-COVID, we had to space things out pretty far. While we were using the entire facility, the actual spacing of exhibitors one to another was kind of widespread. Things will be a little bit closer this year, I think. We're trying to also, continue to be as safe as we can. COVID has certainly not gone away, but we're addressing that. Vendors will probably find that there's a lot more vendors. We're expecting an increase in the number overall. We're returning with the kids play area and the petting zoo, and some of that's going to be brought back inside again. There's going to be we may have a surprise guest speaker there that we're trying to work on. So we'll wait and see if that fully develops. I think the vendors will be pleased with it. We're expecting more activity, I think, this year.
Okay. Even last year with the kind of reduced density on the floor, it still seemed like a very full experience. You definitely had the heavy equipment represented, and I think that's what a lot of people come for. They want to touch it, they want to feel it. Are there any big machines or big things that the attendees can look forward to from the exhibitors, or anything that you saw the exhibitor list, anything you're like, oh, the attendees are gonna love this?
Well, we think we'll probably have more of the big equipment there. We've actually had an increase in the request for what we call rig spaces on the floor. So there'll probably be more big equipment out there on display. It should be a good show. We're excited about it this year.
Yeah. So what you've been going to this event for years, I'm sure long before you were even involved with the South Atlantic Jubilee, right?
Oh yeah, I've probably this may be out of the 35 years I've been at McCall Brothers, I've probably been to the Jubilee at least 32 or 33 of those years.
You've been to a few. Okay.
You've only missed a couple. And so I've been at it a long time. And it's certainly changed over the years in a lot of ways. But I'm excited to be actively a part of the Jubilee board and this year's president. So I think it's important to be plugged into the planning of the thing. And I mean, what we really try to hold to is we want to make sure that it maintains the family atmosphere that it's always had, and try to bring it up to speed so that this younger generation of well contractors that's becoming more engaged, they don't see it as the same old thing that they'd seen since they were kids. They want it to be, technology has changed, the industry has changed, and they want to see it as current as possible. And we're trying to do the things that we can to make it that way.
Yeah. So one thing I'm curious about, and I feel like I've seen this just in my this will be my 10th Jubilee. So I feel like I've seen even just a shift into a more broad conversation, um, like broader than just water well, I guess is what I'm getting at. I look around and I see a lot of geotechnical rigs and what has that been intentional, or has it had been kind of like the exhibitors are looking for an outlet, or has it been intentional from the board to kind of broaden the conversation beyond water well?
Well, I think it's been intentional. When the Jubilee originally started, it literally was just water well contractors, and that was all. But as water well contractors have grown and evolved, some of the businesses are still small mom and pop businesses, and some of them have grown into fairly large businesses with a lot of different avenues of construction that they're engaged in. My company in particular, McCall Brothers, was just a water well business for many years. But after I came on 35 years ago, we developed an environmental section, and we did a section that does foundation drilling, and then we do a lot of construction dewatering. We also do some geothermal and geotechnical type drilling work. So as that has expanded, a lot of other well contractors have also. So it's led to a natural evolution, I think, to include vendors of different types that supply this equipment. And the vendors themselves are starting to offer more and more diverse products that are either directly related to these various industries or to the water well business itself. So your professional well contractor today is not just a well digger like they used to be. They have really grown into groundwater professionals in a lot of ways. So the industry has followed, and so it was just natural that the Jubilee had to start inviting and including those vendors and contractors and speakers and professional development opportunities to go along with those.
Yeah, and it really sounds like it's mirrored how your own business has developed and kind of thrived over time. So if talking to people out there that may just do water well, what is the benefit for stretching out to some of these other sectors? Like I know geothermal is kind of on the cusp of doing something really big right now. Particularly like New York is looking for a lot of geothermal drillers. So that I feel like has been up and down since I've been on this brand. But from your perspective, what is the benefit from kind of branching out like that?
Well, one of the benefits, I think it is, the main benefit, I think, is that businesses go in cycles. And so sometimes the water well drilling business may be down, but the construction business is up, or vice versa. And so if you can engage your company into a number of different things, then when one part of your business is down, the other business part of the business is booming. That can also be a little difficult to manage, however, because it takes a little bit more administrative help. One person can't manage all aspects of your business like that. So it's a two-edged sword, so to speak. But in my business, we've been able to make that work, and it's not for everybody. Some people want to stick with, what they've always done, which is water wells and pump service. There are contractors out there that just do water wells and don't do pump service, and there are pump service contractors that don't do water wells. So there's some specialized areas that people have, remained successful. It also kind of depends on, can be driven by your particular locale. For example, our office is in Charlotte. We don't do a lot of domestic water supply wells for people to use at their homes. That's because there's widespread availability of municipal water in the Charlotte region. However, we do tons of irrigation wells for people, and we do geothermal wells for people, that are associated with either construction or their, personal landscaping, et cetera. So it depends on your particular area, what you're going to do and what you're going to need. And I think that, one thing about well contractors, they're pretty flexible. They'll adapt to just about any circumstance.
Yeah. So, in your years in the industry and, certainly at associations and having input and exposure to, different policy issues and such, what's an important issue in drilling or groundwater that drillers should know more about?
Well, I think one of the big things that we've seen recently is the issue with groundwater withdrawals, how much water they're going to, the limitations on possible limitations on groundwater withdrawals is becoming a big thing. In places like California and places out west, it's heavily regulated because they're losing a lot of their groundwater supply. Groundwater resources are being depleted there, and so it's heavily regulated. Whereas here in the eastern part of the country, we seem to have copious amounts of groundwater and surface water resources, but now we're starting to see those to be becoming impacted. And I think that if we're not engaged, with the local governments and everything, that we're going to see, some restrictions start to be placed upon this industry with the use of groundwater. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that, there needs to be some give and take, and there needs to be some hard and fast regulation so that we don't squander this resource that we have. There needs to be some better conservation efforts and some better utilization of spacing, and people need to use groundwater responsibly. And I think that our industry needs to be involved in that decision making and in how that's done. And I think that we can bring a lot to the table. So we need to be actively engaged in it. I think in the next 10 years, we're really going to see some changes in that area.
Mhm. Well, with that, we will wrap up today's episode. So, thanks again, Mike. I'm really fascinated by your story, and in particular, kind of the active role that you've played. And I think it's important that folks kind of step up off the sidelines, if only to be a little bit more informed about the policies that affect the businesses they've created. And ultimately, your business is your legacy. So if you care about it, I think that getting off the sidelines and being active, even going to your state association meetings, is super critical for a lot of these folks.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, you shouldn't sit around and complain about the regulations if you're not out there doing something about it.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, thanks again, Mike Floyd. Where can the audience find out more about you?
Well, we have a website. It's called www.mccallbro.com. They can find us there. And again, like I said, they can always call me or reach out to me either through the North Carolina Groundwater Association or through the South Atlantic Jubilee. My phone numbers and contact information is on both sides.
Mm-hmm. Or they can just come to the Jubilee and find you on the show floor, right?
Yeah, I'll be wandering around all over it. In fact, if they want to find me, I'll probably be over near the Polaris raffle. I like to help out over there with our scholarships. Jubilee does a wonderful job with giving out scholarship money to prospective students of members who are involved from Jubilee states. And we raffle off a Polaris a recreational vehicle every year. And so I'll be over there selling raffle tickets and wandering the show floor. So actually all the directors will. So just look for the guys in sort of they're not lime green. It's some sort of a seafoam green shirt. But look for us and like I said, look, if you see us, strike up a conversation. If you like something, tell us you like it. If you don't like something, tell us what you don't like. We'll try to make it better.
All right. All right. Well, you can find fresh episodes of our show on our website or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Just search Drilling Insight and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to visit thedriller.com for the latest industry news and views. And of course, follow us on the usual social media channels. So until next time, this is Drilling Insight.